Thank you very much, Tim, and Melanie, for the presentation on the online modules that will be developed and the accompanying manuals. And you can see that there's a bit of a shift in the focus of PacMOSSI as well. While we have been supporting a lot of the top-down initiatives, we're also now moving towards providing a bit more support and a bit more sort of guidance on the community-based approaches as well, to ensure that all of the avenues and options for vector control are explored and utilised. Now I wanted to go to Dr. Brian Johnson, who is with the Queensland Institute of Medical Research Berghofer Institute, and he will be discussing the practical training. Over to you, Brian.
Hi, thanks for that, Tessa. So I guess we can just go to the first slide. So this is really just an advert, kind of start thinking, in the near future, later in the year, that we're going to have a practical training course, focus on 80 surveillance. So the title right now is 80 surveillance for action, baseline, and routine assessments for immature and adult mosquitoes. So the primary objective of this is really just to strengthen capacity and confidence in, our PIC partners in 80 surveillance and in data interpretation, hopefully to enable you to effectively target and optimize vector surveillance and control efforts based on your real-time needs and your local context. So, that can be quite wordy. So in short, it's really just the who, what, when, where, how, and why of 80 surveillance and data-driven decision-making. So really about how you conduct surveillance, what type of surveys are available, what type of indices you can generate, but really focus on how you can use the data that you generate to inform your surveillance and control operations. So really start thinking about, acquiring data, analyzing that data, and making, improving your operational decisions. Next slide, please. So just broad topics. It'll just be 80s collection methods and survey types, sentinel surveillance or hotspot surveillance, common entomological indicators of transmission risk based on larval indices, identification of larval and adult 80s mosquitoes. So this course will focus more on the larval identification, as we've had that adult taxonomy workshop previously, but again, we'll touch on both. And we're going to produce some new guides in the lead up to this workshop. We'll touch on, 80s larval and adult control methods, and really how you prioritize surveillance and control based on data-driven decision-making. Next slide. So there'll be, a lot of learning outcomes, but really hands-on training in adult and larval mosquito identification, hands-on training in common larval and adult surveillance methods, get in the field, learn how to identify key larval habitats, sources, learn how to conduct hotspot sentinel surveillance, learn how to generate and interpret common entomological indicators of risk, based on larval surveys or larval habitat surveys. These could be house index, the container index, the Brito index, and learn really how to interpret the data to prioritize surveillance in your control operations to maximize your benefit in your operations. So really looking about how you acquire that data and how you interpret that data. Next slide, please. So the when, where, and how long, location yet to be determined. So we're looking for volunteers. So if your ministry is willing to host or keen to host, you can express your interest to me or the JCU PacMOSSI team. We're currently looking towards hosting the workshop in November or December of this year. This will allow, basically try to get into the beginning or peak period here, in mosquito numbers. So when we go out in the field, we're very likely to collect things. We'll also kind of, hedge our bets, and we'll provide samples, but we really want to have a heavy field component of this training exercise. So we really want to get out and make sure we can collect things in the field. So right now we're looking at maybe 5 or 6 days. We haven't finalized the agenda yet. So what we're looking for in a host location, a suitable accommodation facility with, conference meeting space. It doesn't have to be in the same building, with accommodation, but, that's convenient. It doesn't have to be fancy, just suitable space to present, basic audiovisual equipment. Ideally, we like a position in close distance, maybe in walking distance or a short drive to accessible field locations. So, if you think about where you're doing surveillance now, and you have these areas where you're collecting lots of samples, or they're highly productive, and they're maybe there's a hotel or accommodation space, whatever there is, hostels, whatever it is nearby, that maybe you can volunteer some locations and accommodation for this training. And ideally, the conference space or whatever it is will double as a dry lab space. So again, in this photo here, we just need, basically some pop-up tables. We'll host some microscopes, because we'll be doing some sample identification and sorting. So again, it doesn't have to be fancy, just enough to fit. We'll have, maybe 20 attendees, maybe more, maybe less. So we kind of have to comfortably fit in that space, but that's about it. Next slide. And then this is just a heads up that, we're looking for samples to come into QIMR. So to develop these new larval and adult keys and job aids or cheat sheets, we want some fresh larval and adult material from the field. So, if you're collecting larvae and adults currently, if you can preserve some of those in, 80% ethanol, and then let some of those adults rear through, and they can be quickly chilled and, stored dried. We'll give you an SOP on how to preserve samples, and then, kind of SOP on how they can be sent to QIMR, but we would love to get samples from as many countries as we possibly can to take some new photos, get some really nice photos of these things, and help us build these new job aids to really assist you in your identification. Right now, the current focus is really on our 80s vectors, so we'll take, really the focus is on the 80s, but we'll take anything that you really collect in these container habitats. You don't really need to identify. We'll do our best here. In the background of this, we're also building a local genomics barcoding database for these 80s vectors in the Pacific. So we're currently working on that now to assist us in future molecular identification work. So we're going to try to do everything we can with the morphology and DNA. So be on the lookout. We'll send an email shortly, distributed through us to the JCU PacMOSSI team on how these samples can come in to QIMR. And with that, I think that's it for the overview of the training workshop. So we're just going to take, we had a couple of quick questions around kind of larval surveillance in the workshop that you could answer. So I guess, Tessa, they just scroll through and just hit the choice?
Yes, please. Yep.
Yep.
So I think it's 5 different questions. They should be fairly self-explanatory. Brian, do you see them and could you read through them?
Yep, I see them. So the first one, how useful do you think larval surveillance is for guiding vector control? So obviously there's 4 multiple choice questions.
They're not considerable.
Pick one. Very useful, somewhat useful, neutral, not useful. I think we'll wait until the end for Q&A because I don't want to lead, start a discussion around the questions and then influence other people's answers. So just answer now.
Just to check, are people able to see the questions?
Tessa, the questions are here, but I can't click on them. I'm not sure if is that just me or
Might just be you.
I
No,
think this
it's.
is an issue.
sorry,
I can click on it, but yeah.
Let me relaunch it.
I think is it correct? Hosts can't participate. I seem to remember that.
I'm a host. Sorry.
Okay, so are you able to answer the questions? Has anyone been able to answer their questions?
I can.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, Edgar, you can't. You've been banned.
Very important.
Edgar, I'm banned too. Don't worry. But also just make sure you don't hit the end poll button like I did. That's also bad.
Okay. I don't get that, so I don't think the other attendees get that pop-up.
No.
So that was the first question. The second question, is there a clear understanding of the distribution and ecology, key larval containers, habitats of each of your kind of known dengue vectors or these 80 species in your country, throughout your country? So, do you really understand the distribution and seasonality and habitat preferences of the 80s vectors that you're targeting? And question 3, so that's a really simple one. It's just a yes or no. Question 3, what do you think are the major barriers to implementing or expanding larval surveillance? So this one's a multiple choice, so you can just click I believe you can click as many as you want, or maybe not. Yep, click as many as you want on that one. And then question 4, would training in larval identification be helpful to you or your team? So again, a single choice one, just yes, no, not applicable to you, not sure. And then question 5, this is really for the training workshop. Would your ministry institute be interested and capable to host the 2025 PacMOSSI practical training workshop in larval surveillance and control?
And Brian, there's not a lot of countries putting their hands up, but we did want to reiterate that we will be doing the majority of the organising for this. We'll do all the logistics. It's really to have an appropriate space to do this and support from the ministry to assist with any on-the-ground organising. But the majority of the work will be done by us. The design of the workshop will be done by us. We will bring facilitators in as well. And we really are very keen to have this in a Pacific Island country. We obviously could have it at QAMR, we could have it at the JCU facility in Cairns, but we would prefer to have it in the field, in a Pacific Island country if possible.
Yes, reiterate, ditto kind of everything that Tessa said there. So again, the heavy lifting will be, well, really the JCU PacMOSSI team on the logistics and organization, and then us as the instructors, we'll do organize all the kind of curriculum, and everything else. But we're happy to if you are a host and you want some of your team members or yourself to contribute to some of the training modules during the activity, happy for that to happen as well.
Edgar, we can't hear you very clearly.
Am I starting now? Am I next?
Yes. No, sorry, I thought you were commenting in the background.
No,
yeah, just to say the countries that say not sure, or even if you say yes, it's not a firm commitment. It's just that we'll come to you and then help to assess if it's appropriate or not.